What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, legendary retired Hall of Famer, former 5-division world champion, former pound-for-pound king, former pay-per-view king, superstar, iconic, retired, 50-0, undefeated, the man known as Money, Floyd Money Mayweather Jr. He responds to all of the critique that YouTube sensations Logan Paul and his brother Jake Paul are receiving, and Floyd Mayweather, that people are starting to question his motive in doing an exhibition bout with Logan Paul. And Floyd Mayweather, he had this to say. He stated that Logan Paul is the biggest star he can do business with within the sport of boxing or event period, as an exhibition or even as an official fight. He says Logan Paul is a bigger star than anybody in the sport of boxing. That including the heavyweights Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. He says that including all of the welterweights, all of the middleweights. He says, name me somebody that I could do bigger numbers with. He stated, name me somebody that's doing bigger numbers and building their brand bigger than Logan Paul and his brother Jake Paul. Now we know Jake Paul, he had a fight on Triller in which he took on Ben Askren, which is a UFC fighter. And he's a novice in the sport of boxing. This is only Jake Paul's third fight. He's taking the sport of boxing serious. And if you look at the history of every fighter that fought, and when they were novice in the beginning of their careers, they're fighting the same level of opposition that Jake Paul is fighting. The difference is Jake Paul, his brand is already branded. It's already a big brand outside of the sport of boxing, okay? He built his brand first, so he did it in reverse, okay? All of these boxers, they're building their brand as they enter the sport of boxing, as they going up in levels in the sport of boxing. Jake Paul, Logan Paul, well, they built their brand outside of the sport of boxing, then they got in the sport of boxing. That's the reason why people don't want to take them serious, because of what they've done outside of the sport of boxing. So essentially, people don't look at them as being, pun intended, blue bloods or homegrown, okay? So with that said, a lot of guys don't take them serious, but they're novice within the sport of boxing, okay? If you look at any superstar, legends, or current or past, their first 3 fights, look who they fought in their first 3 fights, okay? It would be reminiscent of what Jake Paul and Logan Paul are doing, okay? They're just doing it with bigger name step-up opponents, okay? So novice type opponents. They're just doing it with guys that you're familiar with, like Nate Robinson, who's a NBA superstar basketball player, or Ben Askren, who's a UFC superstar, okay? Now, these guys aren't in the prime of their career, but if you just look at, the level of opponents that other legends, past and present, have fought, early in their career, it's going to equal up. It's just the fact is these guys were cab drivers, truck drivers, construction workers, postal workers, to that level, okay? And in return, Jake Paul, Logan Paul are fighting guys that you're familiar with, and they were professions in a different avenue, okay? So, but because you don't know their profession, because you don't know the postal worker, because you don't know the construction worker, because you don't know the truck driver, because you don't know, the mailman, right? You're not familiar with their background and their career, so you dismiss the fact that they're fighting a low-level opposition, and all you're looking at is the fact that the guy that you are favoring that's coming through the sport of boxing and coming up and you expect him to do great things is a blue chip prospect. So you're dismissing the level of opposition that he's fighting, and you'll say, well, this guy's green. So who do you expect him to fight? Well, then who do you expect Jake Paul and Logan Paul to fight? The difference is you are familiar with the guys that they're fighting against, and they have no background within the sport of boxing. And so you dismiss them because you say, oh, Nate Robinson is a basketball player, oh, Ben Askren is a UFC superstar. Or when Floyd Mayweather fought Conor McGregor is a UFC star. He's never competed in the sport of boxing. So you dismiss them, okay? In the case of Floyd Mayweather, you looked at Conor McGregor because Floyd Mayweather was already well accomplished. But you look at Logan Paul and Jake Paul, and you dismiss who they fought, who they're fighting, and you say, well, these guys are not real boxers, right? Because they're already millionaires, and they already built their brand in reverse, opposed to the average boxer, okay, that has to grind hard to get to where they're getting to, okay? So you look at Jake Paul, who's making $700,000 in his third fight, okay? And that's unheard of because he built this brand outside the sport of boxing. So we want to dismiss what he's doing, okay? He's working just as hard as anybody else. It's just that he's older doing it, and he's already a superstar in a different profession, and so he gets dismissed, okay? But if this was a guy that wasn't already a millionaire and already, a billionaire like the guy Fournier, who was on the undercard, who's 8-0, okay, he's a billionaire. Jake Paul is a millionaire. Logan Paul is a millionaire. And if these you didn't know their background and you didn't know how much money they've earned and their worth, okay, and their brand was so big, and you had a guy that was their age that was coming into the sport of boxing, he would be praised, okay? He would be applauded because you would say, oh, listen, this guy, it's never too late to get in the sport of boxing. It's never too late to follow out your dream, okay? But in the case of Jake Paul and Logan Paul, everybody wants to dismiss what they're doing, especially the professional boxers, right? Because they see that what Jake Paul and Logan Paul are doing is working, right? And they want to be where they're at, and they want to say, well, oh, these guys are getting it the easy way. No, they're getting in the sport of boxing the hard way, just like nobody that steps in that ring gets it the easy way. Every time you step through the ropes, as professional boxers always say, they respect anybody that stepped through the ropes, and regardless of what level you on. If you respect anybody that stepped through those ropes, then you should respect Jake and Logan Paul because they're doing it with no headgear and they're stepping in the professional ranks. You see what happened with Nate Robinson. You see what happened with Ben Askren. Ben Askren is a professional UFC star, okay? So he's in combat sports, and Nate Robinson is a physical specimen, okay? But you see, you don't play boxing, okay? So these guys are putting it on the line just like anybody else. But the difference is their brand is already huge, like the Fournier guy. Everybody dismisses 8-0 record because you say, well, this guy, this guy is already a billionaire, so why is he doing it? Why? Because the sport of boxing is seen as a poor man's sport. So if you didn't start off poor in the sport of boxing, then you're not doing it the right way. That's completely incorrect, okay? And the route that Jake Paul and Logan Paul are doing, building their brand, okay, taking on and promoting themselves, this is the route that these boxers should be taking. But these boxers would rather not face the best in the sport of boxing to earn the level of money that they can be earning or build their brand to the level that Jake Paul and Logan Paul have done, okay? So the boxers in the sport of boxing, they rather talk about what Jake Paul and Logan Paul are doing opposed to fighting the best in their division, okay? I saw Jamel Herring. Jamel Herring said that this is what's wrong with the sport of boxing, talking about Jake and Logan Paul, and saying that, downplaying their accomplishments and downplaying the event and so on and so forth. And then he's saying, well, we need to see the best fight the best. Well, Jamel Herring, who's a WBO super featherweight world champion, he has a mandatory challenger in Shakur Stevenson, who he's familiar with, but he's talking about he'll vacate the belt in order to fight and become a two-time world champion against Oscar Valdez, opposed to defending it. There's no difference. You can fight Shakur Stevenson. That's a big fight in the sport of boxing. Give Shakur Stevenson his opportunity, but you refuse to do so. Okay, so I would give you somebody that fought a guy that was 16-16 with 4 draws in their 12th fight. A Hall of Famer. He fought a guy with a resume of 16-16 in his 12th fight. 16 wins, 16 losses, and 4 draws on his resume, okay? This is a Hall of Famer. 16 wins, 15 losses, and 5 draws, okay? A Hall of Famer fought this guy in his 12th fight. Can you name that Hall of Famer? That will be one retired, undefeated Hall of Famer, former pound-for-pound king, one Andre S.O.G. Ward. He fought a guy in his 12th fight that had 16 wins, 15 losses, and 5 draws, okay? Andre Ward was an Olympic gold medalist. He fought in his 12th fight a guy with 16 wins, 15 losses, and 5 draws, okay? And he was an Olympic already established as a blue chip can't miss prospect within the sport of boxing. And in his 12th fight, he fought a guy that was, nobody can name this guy. He was a truck driver, a cab driver, or whomever else he was, okay? And he was put in there to be made look good, for Andre Ward to be made to look good. Okay, so these are the things that get dismissed within the sport of boxing. Instead of, and I'm not saying that Andre Ward critiquing him. I'm talking about Andre Ward being a legend. Andre Ward being a Hall of Famer. Andre Ward being an iconic, retired, undefeated superstar, former pound-for-pound king within the sport of boxing. And this is who he fought in his 12th fight. Not in his 3rd fight, in his 12th fight. Okay, as a professional, he was an Olympic gold medalist. And you cannot name the guy he fought. Okay, so with that said, we cannot, instead of the fighters and instead of people talking down upon what Jake Paul and Logan Paul are doing, we should adopt the blueprint. Build your resume up. Build your brand up outside the ring. These guys are taking the control of their own careers. They're following out and they're carrying out the dream that they so choose to. This is a dream of theirs and they're pursuing it. But yet, if this was somebody else that wasn't already well accomplished, already a millionaire outside of it, we would say it's never too late to follow your dreams. So why we want to, sidetrack what they're and downplay what they're doing, following their dreams? Because the level of opposition that they're fighting, this is the same level of opposition that anybody and their 3rd fight will be fighting. So with that said, Floyd Mayweather, he stated that everybody is just upset that they have already built their brand and they don't want to work hard to get to where they are, building up their brand. Floyd Mayweather said, there's nobody I could fight in the sport of boxing that could bring in the revenue or bring in the following that Jake or Logan Paul brings in. And the boxers are mad that and saying that I need to give them the same opportunity. For one, I'm fully retired and I'm doing this as an exhibition. And for two, name me somebody with a bigger brand that would get more attention and be able to garner over $100 million that's currently active today. You can't. But hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Hey, this is Ebony Bridges, Blonde Bomber, and you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.